So that interaction that comes with joint attention can be a challenge for us. It can be stressful for us. And if something is stressful, is that something you gravitate toward? You want to do? No, but that doesn't mean that we can't begin to value and appreciate what we can learn from other people, as long as you approach us in ways that we best learn. So this is where, when we have a play setting, rather than intruding or insisting on paying attention, doing things your way, which will make sense to us, if you take an interest in how we're doing it, be curious.
Hi, I'm Staci Neustadt. I am a speech language pathologist and the CEO at Making Sense of Autism, and I'm a student of Susan.
And I'm Susan Golubock. I am a now retired occupational therapist who has worked many, many years after I discovered even my own autism with other autistic individuals. I founded Making Sense of Autism because of my passion to not only understand my brain and how it worked differently, but to try to explain what I've learned to other people so that they're more understanding and therefore more accepting and more accommodating to autistic individuals.
So, our goal is to help you provide the right support without trying to fix autism, but by understanding it. So whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or just someone who wants to learn, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe and join us every week. We talk about a new topic. Do I remember when I was a young SLP learning about joint attention? I remember there was even an assessment around joint attention. And I remember seeing goals where a child will increase their joint attention. I obviously have shifted that view of, one, I can teach that joint attention as a hard skill, which I now know I can't, but then also joint attention in non-autistic children looks very different than joint attention in autistic children. So obviously this is a skill that develops very, very young. And maybe that is what some parents noticed first, is that their child didn't demonstrate joint attention or engagement. But what I want you to talk about today is, how does it look different? Not disordered, but different. And what are some strategies that we can support joint attention? Because we do see that it is an important soft skill for language and social and all of those skills.
All right, let me start with the sensory differences that autistic children have in terms of how that contributes to their not developing the joint attention in the manner that you expect them to. If you are hypersensitive to touch, the tendency is to turn away from it. So when a parent, instead of looking at a parent, which a typical child, when a parent touches them, is going to look at them. But if you're hypersensitive, you're going to look away. We already know eye contact for autistic individuals is different. It doesn't mean we don't look at other people. We just don't get what the significance is of eye movements. I tried that once. I watched their movements because everyone said that's where the messages are coming from. I could see movements, but I couldn't translate it. I don't know what it means. Well, because I have to practice and exaggerate my movements to be even aware that I have movements in my face and how to regulate them. So if they're meaningless, why am I looking at people? As far as joint contact in terms of others pointing at it, and you're supposed to regard what they're looking at, or they tell you, well, number one, auditory processing, someone can tell me, look at that. And I'm like, where? What direction do I go? Because just that's so non-concrete. I don't know what. And yet, maybe a typical child would first look at the person to see where they're pointing. They understand what that look at that means. um, so the auditory processing can get in the way. Um, and so there's so many of these sensory issues that we have that means that we're not going to give joint attention in the same way. Now, uh, if it's something that I have an interest in, like car, dinosaur, those are words, train, right away, I know what to look for because I can translate that word into something that's meaningful to me. And yes, you're going to get me to look at what you're looking at. If that's what you're looking at, is what interests me. But when you say, look at that blank, and it has, why should I? Where's the interest? So there's lots of reasons why autistics don't develop it. And that doesn't mean we are not aware of you as a play partner when we're playing. We can actually enjoy having you play at the same time, what's called parallel play, being with us at that time. We sense your presence, but because of the sensory issues, we don't want you interfering with what we're doing because that's an intrusion. It causes us to have to shift in our brain away from the focus we had to a different area of the brain to translate. Why did you do that? What's happening? It's a disruption, and disruptions are very difficult. So that interaction that comes with joint attention can be a challenge for us. It can be stressful for us. And if something is stressful, is that something you gravitate toward? You want to do? No, but that doesn't mean that we can't begin to value and appreciate what we can learn from other people, as long as you approach us in ways that we best learn. So this is where, when we have a play setting, rather than intruding or insisting on paying attention, doing things your way, which will make sense to us, if you take an interest in how we're doing it, be curious. Oh, I noticed you just did. Oh, I want to try that. And I'm gonna be curious to find out, can you do what I just did? Are you any successful or not? Of course, that's going to be intrinsically interesting to me. Mm-hmm. So then I will watch what you're doing because you're trying to do what it is I just did, as opposed to you trying to distract me from what I'm doing and take an interest in what you're doing, which is totally different and unrelated. I mean, that makes logical sense to us as autistics. So that doesn't mean that, yes, there are ways you can facilitate joint attention by helping the autistic experience it as a positive experience as opposed to a negative. So once it becomes a positive experience, we're going to want to do more of that, watching and learning from you. But the only way we can know or experience that it's a fun thing to watch and learn from someone is if someone does it for us. And yet that's the missing component. That's the one thing therapists, parents, whatever, forget to do. They want our attention to them, but they never give us attention to us and what we're doing, why we're doing it. There's no curiosity. So if you have no interest in me, why should I have an interest in you?
Yeah, that's really the golden ticket right there, is instead of trying to get the child to what you're doing, you join them. And that's really, child-led therapy as well, is taking interest, being curious in what they're doing. I know I have a lot of kids who, especially working in early intervention, I do have families sometimes who will be like, they don't really care about toys because they're the go, go, go type kids. So talk about joint attention with kids who don't necessarily, they're not playing with something and then looking at you, because they are just all about movement.
But that's play.
Yeah.
You learn to play. I mean, how many kids' games involve movement, hopscotch, and jump roping, and all of those things involve movement. And you're gaining skill. The interest is in the body and what the body is experiencing and learning from that experience. So join them.
Mhm.
If running is fun, run with them. And take a curiosity. Oh my gosh, you run so much faster. Or I'll bet if I put more effort, I could run faster than you. I'll try it. I mean, you draw attention to them because you're taking an interest in what they're doing and how they're doing it. And of course, they're going to take an interest in you because you took an interest in them. That's an underlying human nature. I mean, we're still human beings. We still have those instincts. It's just that the way we experience things makes us respond differently than you do. So you have to look at that difference and be curious about that difference and try to experience what we're getting out of doing it differently. And we're going to take an interest in the fact that you're interested in us.
Yeah. And I've seen that. I've always kind of taken a child-led approach and joined in with my kids that I work with. I'll never forget one of my clients, probably 15, 18 years ago. The first session he came in, he was just rolling markers on the table. And so I took my marker and I joined him. And his mom talked about that event for years and how she was blown away that he was so interested in doing that with me and so engaged. And it's just like you said, because I took interest in what he is doing. And sometimes with kids too, depending on their sensory input, and I kind of test out and get curious on that anticipatory play, like I'm gonna get you, or peekaboo, things like that. Some kids, there's no reaction, and so obviously that's motivating, not motivating, but other kids love that, and you get tons of instant joint attention. And again, this joint attention is that foundation to social, but it is also that language, and there's so much language with it.
Yes. Well, when you're paying attention to what another person does, you're also paying attention to what they say. So
Yeah.
you're going to be picking up the words that describe actions you're familiar with, that you've done. And you've given me words to describe it. Now I can talk to you about my favorite thing, what I like to do. So, of course, it's a way of building language. But if you're giving me language about cats and I have no idea, I no experience with a cat, why do I want to learn that word? What's the relevance?
Yeah.
It has to be relevant to what is important to them before they're going to pay attention to it. But you offer that, man, they're going to love learning from you.
Absolutely. And we're definitely not saying, like you gave the example of cats, and if they're not interested, we're not saying they're never going to learn that word cats, but just like our foundation of our framework, I was understanding so that you can build on those strengths of what do they enjoy right now, and eventually all those other topics will become of interest. But if you aren't starting with that understanding of what their motivation is, you're not going to get there, because we have to start at that foundation.
That's right. It's like trying to build a house without putting a foundation down first.
Absolutely.
It's not going to go anywhere.
Absolutely. So joint attention is a big topic, especially for early intervention and, sometimes for parents. So we have a list of strategies that you can use. There's a freebie below. So download that, share that. Be sure to subscribe because we send out little tips every week. And so when you get us in your inbox or pop up that we have a new video, we have, even if there isn't an attached freebie, there's definitely some free information that we teach you every week. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you for asking, Stacy.